Fresh clashes broke out between Iranian and US naval forces in the Strait of Hormuz, marking the latest flare-up. Despite a fragile ceasefire, now Iran's semi-official fast news agency reported sporadic clashes between Iranian armed forces and American vessels. The fighting came as President Donald Trump said that he was awaiting Tehran's reply to his latest proposal to end the war. A US fighter jet on Friday disabled at least 2 Iranian-flagged tankers, prompting retaliatory attacks. Now, US Central Command said that an F-A-18 Super Hornet used precision munitions against 2 ships in the Gulf of Oman, and these Iranian-flagged tankers were identified as Sea Star 3 and Sevda. An Iranian military official told local media the country's navy had responded to the violation of the ceasefire and to American terrorism with strikes, and the clashes have now ceased. Iran and the US had engaged in a similar showdown a day earlier, with US military targeting an Iranian tanker and another ship in the strait. Iran retaliated by launching missiles, drones and small boats at 3 American warships.
The Americans have understood since last night that their display of a naval blockade will from now on be met with a military response from the Islamic Republic of Iran. No one can any longer take military action against our ships and expect it to go unanswered.
Meanwhile, satellite images show that an oil slick is spreading off the coast of Iran's Kharg Island. It was not immediately clear what had caused the apparent spill. Now, Kharg Island is at the heart of Iran's oil export industry, a linchpin of the country's battered economy, and lies north of the Strait of Hormuz. During the war, Iran has largely closed the strait, throwing global markets into turmoil and driving up oil prices. An Iranian official compared the influence of the Strait of Hormuz to an atomic bomb. Listen to this.
On the issue of the Strait of Hormuz, for years we neglected this advantage. In reality, it is a capability on the level of an atomic bomb. When you hold a position from which a single decision can affect the entire global economy, that is an extremely great capability. What we have gained through this war, we will by no means give up.
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio reiterated that it was unacceptable for Tehran to control the crucial oil conduit. Speaking to reporters in Rome, Rubio said that Washington was expecting Iran's response to its latest proposal later soon.
Well, we should know something today. I mean, we're expecting a response from them. We'll see what the response entails. The hope is it's something that it can put us into a serious process of negotiation.
Trump at the White House later added, and I'm quoting here, "I'm getting a letter supposedly tonight, so we'll see how that goes." Now, Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani met with US Vice President J.D. Vance in Washington and discussed efforts to broker a permanent peace. Iran has repeatedly attacked sites in Qatar during the war, pointing to its role as host of a major US airbase. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
The situation in the Gulf remains extremely tense, despite President Trump insisting that the ceasefire with Iran is holding. The Trump administration appears to be intensifying diplomatic efforts behind the scenes. Vice President J.D. Vance on Friday met with Qatar's Prime Minister to discuss the conflict and ongoing negotiations. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that Washington expects Iran to respond to a proposed framework aimed at reopening the Strait of Hormuz and restarting negotiations. But U.S. officials are also warning the military is fully prepared for a much larger response if Iran escalates again. Iran's ambassador to the United Nations on Friday, in a letter to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, accused the United States of violating the ceasefire after the U.S. military fired on 2 Iranian tankers. The U.S. maintains they were acting in self-defense after being attacked. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.